Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to G for G on YouTube. And this time, when I say welcome back, I do mean welcome back, as it has been quite some time since I've done a video. And the reason is because I moved. The girlfriend and I have left our townhouse that I was personally at for about 15 years. I was in the complex of that townhouse for 22 years. No, do not misread the word complex and think, oh great, Napalm was making videos in jail. No, it was a townhouse community. We've left there and we are now first-time homeowners. So, as some of you may or may not know, the reason why I haven't been doing videos lately is because we were involved in the move and I was getting settled and getting the computer set up, getting the microphone set back up again, the desk and everything. All a great massive upgrade. Love it. The computer setup is really nice now. Got a great gamer desk. Going to be putting in a Razer monitor probably tonight. Gonna change things up a little bit, get a nice monitor arm, clear up some desk space. So sorry for the delay in getting stuff out there, just super busy. Let me tackle this right in the beginning. This is a video that is going to feature MAA Redux. However, Beta 2 and Beta 3 are the only versions that are out currently. I do not have any news for Beta 4 yet. I haven't touched base with Goofy in some time. I tend to be one of the ones who does not like to abuse my position on the project and use backdoors to get to Goofy and ask him, so what's going on? However, I am a human being and I'm like you guys and look for updates just as much as anybody. So I think I am going to ask him how things have been going this weekend, and hopefully I'll get a little bit of news. Sometimes when I speak with him for a status on the project, I kind of prods him for a little bit. But, you know, Goofy definitely deals with a lot in real life, and that always comes first. So I'm going to get with him as soon as I can and find out how Beta 4 is going. But today, we are going to take a look at the newest characters that are in Marvel Strike Force and do what I often do on the channel, and that is compare them to their iterations, their iterations in other games, and kind of talk about them a little bit, see how they pan out, see which game generally has the strongest representation of that character, and where they'll probably rank within the game itself. So as you can see here, it's really easy to do that for Strike Force. We had White Tiger in other games, we had Morbius in other games, but today we're going to do some of the new characters. I do have one unlocked, and that is Spider-Woman, but we'll also be dealing with some members of the A-Team and some new mutants. Wong and Doctor Strange Heartless, I am going to see Saturday night, close to midnight. I am going to go ahead and see Doctor Strange, so I'm looking forward to that. Madeline Pryor really doesn't have much representation in other games, so I skipped over her. But here is Spider-Woman, so let's talk about her first. And let me switch over to Scrappers and bring her up. So her bio in Marvel Avengers Alliance: suffering from uranium poisoning as a young girl, Jessica Drew was at the point of death when her geneticist father injected her with a serum derived from spider venom. After decades in stasis as the serum took hold, Jessica reawoke into the contemporary world with tremendous powers. Initially trained by Hydra, I don't think I've ever actually read this. I didn't know any of this. She rebelled against them and joined S.H.I.E.L.D., where she's a valued asset. Wow. Did not know she was ever Hydra. What I know about classic Spider-Woman is the infamous butt on a roof pose that caused a lot of controversy until people pointed out that Spider-Man has literally been in the exact same pose. However, there was that artist, was it Cho? That somebody drew sort of a one-off of kind of a very camel-toed Spider-Woman for him. And that also caused a lot of controversy because it was kind of ridiculous. But Spider-Woman in here is pretty toned down. Pretty athletic build, but not particularly overly sexy, I would say. So that's at least good. Some progress in Spider Camel Toe. So let's take a look at her in Marvel Strike Force. They say that she is a formidable blaster who uses pheromone powers to sap the enemy's strength, leaving them open to devastating attacks. She's a hero, city bio blaster, a member of A-Force, and Debonair. No, that is not the great song by a band called Afghan Wigs. So here in Strike Force, she has Swift Strikes, Gliding Assault, Venom Blast, and Pheromone Fighter. In MAA, she had Brawl, Venom Blast, Fear, Pheromones, and Seduction. So we can see there is a similar theme. You have some melee-related items, and you have some range-related items and pheromones. Swift Strikes attacks the primary target for damage, applies a defense down. She chains and then applies defense down as you progress. She gains damage up, and then she chains to additional targets. And then finally, at the orange level, she applies defense down to 2 turns to the primary. Kind of orange worthy. Seems reasonable. It's not often you see a level 1 be potentially orange viable at first glance, but that one seems to be. You have Gliding Assault, which is attacking a primary target. Apply ability block and heal block. Those two combined is really good. She chains to adjacent targets. Applying the heal block, she gains a whole lot of extra focus. It's unavoidable, can't be blocked. It has a war offense. She has bonuses with A-Force allies. The heal block goes up. The offense down gets spread more. More targets. Offense down for 2 turns. And then on war offense, she will eventually gain damage per A-Force allies and hit nearly everybody. So she's a war offense character. She really likes her A-Force. We have Venom Blast, where she attacks the primary target for damage. 20% additional damage per negative on the primary target. I like to see this in Strike Force because it reminds me of Attrition Exploit from Marvel Avengers Alliance. Now, this isn't specifically attrition. It's not saying a dot, because the only dot in this game is a bleed. Even fire-based people who cause burns only cause a bleed. But this is what we got. So any negative is valid. She'll flip a positive effect to a negative effect on the target. She has a Scarlet Witch style negative extension. It cannot be dodged on war offense. It cannot be blocked. Damage goes up, and then eventually at level 7 flip 2 positive effects to negative. Just about every part of her kit is kind of orange worthy, especially on war offense. And then finally her passive, a Pheromone Fighter, is that she spawns with defense up to herself and A-Force allies. She heals. She gains focus per A-Force. She gains max health. And A-Force allies gain the max health. And then eventually you get to, on spawn, if this character is 3 or more A-Force allies, offense down for 2 turns to all enemies. And then apply defense up for 2 turns, lower the accuracy. So she really controls the battlefield. She does a lot of offense down on the enemy side. She boosts her team. She cripples the enemy team. That's a pretty solid character. Now, we're not really going to pair her to Kurth because that's not fair. Spider-Woman in Marvel Avengers Alliance went from one of the weakest toons in the game ever and a definite jet pilot along with like Luke Cage to getting a little bit of a rework as Spider-Woman and then getting a massive rework into Kurth and truly becoming a force of nature. People may remember with Escutcheon on the Bruiser version of Kurth, she was unstunnable and she drained. So that was a very interesting thing, and there was a huge controversy for years as to whether or not Escutcheon's interaction with Spider-Woman was valid. They never fixed it because it was something about the code that how Escutcheon works with unstunnable characters. Any unstunnable character, including the agent, if you set the agent up that way, caused that draining to a level that it shouldn't have. Playdom never fixed it, probably because they never considered it a bug. It was a feature. But she has Brawl. And actually, let's go ahead and jump over to her on the wiki. She has the dash over here. Okay, so she was a flyer. She had Spider Serum, which was a passive attack buff that made her immune to poison, radiation exposure, and bio attacks, which is pretty solid. And she had Vengeance, 50% chance to counter melee with Brawl and range with Venom Blast. I feel like that never procced a hell of a lot, and I'll talk about that more in a moment, but I feel like Vengeance was not very strong for her. Here she was part of the Avengers, the Lady Liberators, the Spider Army. Lady Liberators were Black Cat, Black Widow, well, actually quite a lot of the women in the game. Non-game canon, Valkyrie. Alright, so she had Brawl, which was deadly crits. She had Venom Blast, which did biofeedback, which was counted as attrition. It counted as stun and poison. She had Fear Pheromones, which is bio attack and subtle. It caused intimidated cower. And then Pheromones, these chemicals go straight to the brain. This didn't seem to have any effect, but an interesting note is that it said it affected one mob in the game called the Bioethicist. Don't know what it did, though. We know Fear Me for Kurth did a lot. Boy, do we know that. But Fear Pheromones over here, not much. And then she had Seduction Pheromones, which was bio subtle. It did mind control, disoriented. So both games seem to lean pretty heavily into the part melee, part fear, like sort of like Scarecrow from DC, fear-inducing toxins, and actually some kind of a toxin shot. Alright, so next we're going to move on to Dazzler, because she's listed here first. We don't have a counterpart for her in MAA, but of course, things are always subject to change. That is a crazy idle animation that she does. She really looks like she's on a lot of drugs when she does it. I'm goof. Look at the mouth when she does that. It's like total Joker territory over here. Watch it. It should happen again. Gah, that is so creepy. The eyes with no pupils, and then that Joker mouth at the end of her little skate routine over there is, ooh, that is horrifying. Alright, so she is Hero Global Mutant Controller, and she's part of a new team called Unlimited XMen. She has Showtime, Offense Down. In Crucible, it applies Blind to the primary target. That's a new mode that's coming. In Crucible, flip defense up on the primary target, probably to defense down. And then eventually at the orange level always crit and always apply the blind. I would say relatively orange worthy. Just depends on how big Crucible becomes. The level 2 Dancing Queen. You are the Dancing Queen. Da-ding, da-ding, da-ding. Attack the primary target for 80% damage. She barriers herself and all unlimited X-Men allies for 10% of their max health. Damage up. Always apply the blind to the primary target. Reduce the speed bar. In Crucible, apply regeneration to self and all unlimited X-Men. But only in Crucible. Damage up. Bigger shield. And then eventually apply 2 regenerations, likely under the same circumstances. This, not that orange worthy. Even a Crucible becomes huge. Getting 2 regenerations instead of 1, if you're limited by oranges, might be skippable. Showstopper. Shawn Michaels from the WWE. Attack all enemies for damage, can't be counterattacked. She flips a negative effect to a positive effect on self and all unlimited X-Men allies. In Crucible, she flips all negatives to positives instead. Apply ability block with a ton of extra focus. Slow to all enemies, flip 2 negative enemies 2 negative effects to positive effects on the self, and unlimited X-Men, and then damage up. Level 6 seems good over there. I don't think the 7 is orange worthy. And then Disco Diva. Disco. On blind, gain a deflect. I guess that means if she gets blinded, she'll gain a deflect. She gets a lot of focus. Unlimited X-Men allies gain focus. Common trait. We've seen a lot of this before. Spawning in a crucible. There's some barriers going on over here and more focus. Clear blind from self and all X-Men allies gain focus. But I wonder if that means she doesn't gain the deflect anymore. I would think she would gain the deflect and then clear the blind. It's a stack order question, just like Magic the Gathering. 15% of the character's max health is a barrier. And then eventually at the orange level, filling the speed bar, gaining a lot of focus. Unlimited X-Men gain a lot of focus. Somewhat orange worthy. She's not clearly orange sucking. Does anybody have any orange slices? She's not as orange sucking as Spider-Woman was, who seems like most of her kit is orange worthy. Dazzler seems pretty good to stay at the nearly top level. Moving on to Fantomex. He was, of course, in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and he has a notorious history, so I think it's pretty cool that the graphics are... his look is just so spot on between the two games over here. I mean, that's about as close as you're going to get, other than the fact that it's 2 guns instead of 1. But Fantomex had a lot of issues back in the day because Fantomex needed to do a lot of non-subtle AoE in order to be good. And when you had infiltrators on the other side, it was easy for him to get shredded just doing what he needs to do to ramp up. And the sad thing was, he had to do certain things in order to be good, and that put him at high risk when it came to infiltrators. So he had a passive of misdirection. 20% chance of negating enemy attacks. Chance to dodge increases for an uncanny X-Force ally after being successfully attacked up to a maximum of 70, and reduces to 20% on a successful dodge. So it's basically like, hey man, keep gaining dodge stacks until you actually dodge, then reset it. Does not affect enemies immune to psychic effects. He had psychic warding, which I think we often forget about. I did. Taking less damage from psychic attacks and effects, removes 1 negative psychic effect every round. Does anybody remember that he had that? I didn't remember that he had that. Holy shit. Where was I for this? His level 1 was Diabolique, which was target focus and all allies gain focused. And this was a big key here. His level 2, Allons-y, which is French for let's go. All enemies got lock on, which was additional damage from ranged attacks, which is very good. And then on himself, he got Ava. Now, this is the problem. Allons-y was all enemies, and it was not subtle, and it was not stealthy or anything in any way, shape, or form to walk around infiltrators. But he needed Ava for his kit to work. So in order for him to summon Saturn with robot legs, Crab Saturn, he risked getting absolutely plowed by infiltrators. Later on, when the X-Force passives came around, Psylocke would have made this tack invisible, which is good, but he needed Ava. So then his next ability was Fantôme, which was stealthy, and it gave 1 enemy disoriented, and you're going to see some stuff about that down here at the bottom. And then Ovni Ava, which of course you needed to set up by doing Allons-y, and it was a ranged tech and summon, so that means it could be a quick action with a specific ISO. He got hyper focused, which meant he dealt extra damage. It was a summon attack and some assembly required, which means you couldn't do it unless you had Allons-y. And the Ava buff, which is bordered, which means it couldn't be removed. Duplicitous empowered ISO 8 gave him Gentleman Cambrule. Performs a follow-up attack when enemies attack each other. That is really, really good if you're using a fear team. And the Sensing Augmented ISO 8, which did pre-Ava to Diabolique, which means Ava pre-counters before using this attack. They said it doesn't work with Sidelock's uniform. Interesting. So yeah, he had a lot of problems. The way infiltrators were considered off the menu when it came to Quicksilver being around, looks like infiltrators are off the menu, boys. Fantomex was off the menu when infiltrators were around. However, when the X-Force passives came around, he was better, and when we got some later ISOs, like the gun-related ones and the summon ones, he was stronger, but he still was a very nowhere character. I mean, let's just be honest about it. Here, he's a hero global mutant blaster. He is unlimited X-Men, and he is Swave and a boner. He has dual shot, which attacks the primary target for piercing, then he repeats it. When forced to attack an ally, he deals less damage. So, interesting, they're keeping a lot of some thematic things from Marvel Avengers Alliance. You have gun stuff, and you have disoriented stuff. Damage goes up, up, up. Level 5, increased damage, and applies defense down up to 5. And then increased damage. Not necessarily orange worthy. However, I would think giving him the ISO that gives you extra attack when you attack people with the purple debuff would be good, because I think it's a good way to apply 2 defense downs really, really quickly over there. Ava assist, attack the primary target for 100% damage and gain a taunt, which is weird because there's no protector things going on for him, but he gains a taunt. He gains a taunt, and if the primary target has a taunt, attack the enemy with highest damage instead. So he's like, excuse me, never mind, I'm just going to go around you. Apply offense down to the primary target. Apply taunt to the primary target. Defense up to self and unlimited X-Men. Offense down, defense up, and then finally gain taunt for 2 turns. I think that is kind of orange worthy if you set him up to be a sort of tank, which is weird. Stylish Shooter, attack the primary target for small damage, piercing, bonus attack for 3 more times, and more piercing. In Crucible, the bonus attacks go up in damage. Clear evade from the primary targets, more bonus attacks, and then more bonus attacks. Doesn't seem super orange worthy on that one. Stylish Shooter, which is what I just did. Okay, the passive, excuse me. On spawn, gain the evade, gain a whole lot of resistance to bleeds. Healing. On death, apply offense up to all unlimited X-Men allies. Apply defense up to all allies, and call 2 unlimited X-Men with the highest damage to attack the most injured enemy. Wow, that's a shot from the grave right there. Dodge chance armor, and then on spawn, apply evade to all X-Men allies. So that does seem orange worthy. So a lot of gun thematics over here. Doesn't really super go into the Ava thing, the Crab Saturn. Mostly a lot of gunplay and evasion type stuff. A little bit with mind control, but not the biggest. Gambit. Here we go. Gambit. One of the crowd's favorite characters of all time to have in Marvel games. I didn't mean to click Scrapper. There he is. So the uniform, pretty spot on. Got the head helmet there. Purple chest. Colors are pretty spot on. The beige trench coat, a little bit longer in MAA than it was in Strike Force. In MAA, of course, we know there was a period of time where Gambit, under certain circumstances, was ridiculously overpowered and game-breaking to the point where he got nerfed. And I do believe it involves the flanking off of Ace of Spades. So he had Bow Roulette, which gave him kinetic charge. He had Ace of Spades, which gave kinetic release, which released the charges. And this was a single target attack. The enemy gained exposed and pain. He had a Raging Cajun, which was melee. Kinetic was very bow staff based. Deadly crits, exploits exposure, and kinetic burst, which consumes charges again. And then eventually Royal Flush, which is everybody, range kinetic, deadly crits, wide open, remove buffs, and fumbling, which are phenomenal debuffs to do. And then, of course, he had the ISO that gave him 8-card stud, which says he can gain up to 8 stacks of his charge. And then this one right here, high card, augmented ISO 8, adds high card to Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades becomes stealthy and applies flanked. So, this is the routine with Gambit. With kinetic release, you were granted an extra turn. Little hidden thing there. So you would Ace of Spades somebody, which flanks them. And then you hit them, and then you get an extra turn. It takes a turn to set up. By basically setting up the flank, you constantly spam Ace of Spades, which follows up with the Bow Roulette, which gives you back a charge, which allows you to use Ace of Spades, which becomes a extra turn. So ace bow, ace bow, ace bow, ace bow, ace bow, ace bow, ad infinitum. The target is dead. There were changes that went into effect in the game to stop that, but this combination through flanked was a major deal for quite some time. Not one that I ever used or pulled off. I think I lacked the ISO, and at that point I had other things to worry about than Gambit, and I did not use him that way. But it goes to show you what a thinking man's game Marvel Avengers Alliance really was. This is one of the few that I never partook in. So he has anti-up, which seems to be melee based. He bonus attacks the most injured enemy. He ignores taunt. He does piercing, damage up, heal block to the most injured enemy. It would be nice if heal block allowed you to prevent resurrection effects like Despair did in MAA. I don't know if everybody remembers that, but Despair not only prevented healing, it prevented rezzing, since the game considered rezzing basically healing. You're just healing up from death. Winning Hand, attack the primary target and adjacent targets for piercing. If charged, apply the ability block, then lose the charge. When this character is AI controlled, this attack will only be used if he's charged. So it's cool that it tells you what the AI is going to do with this. Games typically don't do this. You have to discover how the AI pilots characters. Here, it straight up tells you what it's going to do. I think that's pretty cool. More Crucible stuff with speed up to unlimited XMen. 50% chance to gain speed up. You got the bleeds, damage up, bleeds and speeds. Bleeds and speeds. That is orange worthy, I would say. And then stack deck. All enemies get attacked, so this is sort of like Royal Flush. Hello, Alberto Cat. She's going to scrape my chair. She may even jump on it. Unavoidable can't be blocked, which is cool. Crucible, flip a positive effect. More damage. Chance to apply disrupted. 50% chance to apply disrupted. Damage up. 3 or more any X-Men. Apply disrupted to all enemies, which is brilliant. And then disrupted for 2 turns. Damage up and flipping positives to negatives. That is definitely orange worthy. And then pick a card. On spawn, gain charged. In Crucible, gain another charged. When an enemy drops below 50% health for the first time, do the following. Stealth, immunity, clear defense down on Gambit. And then we have, at the end of the enemy turn, attack the most injured enemies. Kind of reminds me a lot of what Iceman does. Apply a heal block, gain max health. When this character has evade, gain crit chance, crit damage up. So he seems like he's going to be a raider for his ISOs. Apply evade to unlimited X-Men allies and more Crucible stuff. And then finally, the last of them over here is an A-Force character like Spider-Woman. She's Hero City Mystic Controller, A-Force, and she's also Swaven to Boner. It is Nico, who we don't get to see much in games at all. She is in Marvel Future Fight, but she is really kind of very limited in that game. She's absolutely nowhere. She's a shitty toon. she's referred to as Sister Grimm in that game. So, comparing Chewie, almost wrecking, Chewie just totally beefed it on the our network shelves over here. So, give me 1 second. All right, so Nico is a little bit cleaned up in her appearance, a little bit more modern, put together. She's no longer a Hot Topic girl. And of course, in this game, she had one hell of a kit and a very interesting mechanic where most of her abilities could only be used once. So she had the Witch Arm, which caused Bane on an enemy. She cut herself in 2 pieces. It was her last resort. And then she had Lesser Arcana, which was a multifunction of Ethereal Strike. Soulfire, Staff of One, was the mechanic of only doing it one time. Stick Around, Adhesive X, Constricted. Little known piece of trivia here was Stick Around. It worked so great on Deadpool. His AI was so linear that if you stuck him with anti-melee or something that disabled him in round 1, he wouldn't know what to do. He would just refresh. Because he was programmed to go 1, 2, 4, 9, and if he couldn't do that, he just would short circuit. So, Adhesive X, the pink gummy taffy launcher, all that stuff worked great on Deadpool when he was strong. Freeze, Frozen, Chilled, and Stun. And then Kick-Ass, which I think a lot of people kind of forget about with her. An extra turn to an ally and gave them Rising Up. Here we have the Greater Arcana, which also was Staff of One. And then you had Fear Me, which did Cower and Intimidated to all enemies. It was a psychic attack. You Suck, which was neutralized, impaired, and nerfed to one enemy. More dots, more dots, more dots, Trome more dots. That's the Anixia wipe animation video. Chaos Shot, which caused a bunch of attrition debuffs on all enemies. And then Rock and Roll, which was all enemies. Blood Offering requires bleeding to use. And then Catastrophic, Exploit Attrition, so you would do that always after more dots. It was kind of a Cosmic Cube thing going on here. And then Blood Sacrifice, free action Blood Sacrifice, where she restores some health, and then she immediately applies 3 stacks of bleeds. She had a passive called Back from the Brink, which would resurrect her once. She had Blood Magic, which said when she was bleeding, she did more damage, but it reduced the damage of bleeding. She was a flyer. And then Runaway Rallying Cry, where they all get Try Not to Die if you have 2 or more runaways present. So it took a while for her to get this because she was the only runaway for a while, and then we started to get more. And unfortunately, we don't see the runaways in other games. Nico is the only one that has made it out of Marvel Avengers Alliance into something else. We don't get Carolina or Chase or Molly or Gertie or Old Lace or Victor. We just don't see these guys in any other games, and it's kind of a shame. I really do miss my Molly Hayes. I wish I could pilot her in more games because she was one of my favorite characters. But we have Blood Strike. Every use of the ability after the first time does random effects, which include applying a bleed, gaining a defense up, or healing the most injured ally herself for 15%. Damage goes up. Clear heal blocks from allies. Call an ally with the highest damage to attack the primary target. Clear all stuns from the ally with the highest damage, which I think means attack power. I think that's what they're going for. Always call an ally with the highest damage to attack, and then damage up. Not orange worthy. The one right before the last seems like a good stopping point. Occult Bloodletting, attacking the primary and adjacent targets for 80% damage. And again, you get the random abilities. This time it's Disrupted, Death Proof, and Counter. There's a bleed. There's a regeneration. There's more bleeds and more regeneration. So Nico in this game suffers no negative effects at all. She does not cut herself in 2 pieces. It's not her last resort. and she can continue to do her abilities like normal. Grim Tidings attacks all the enemies. It flips deflect into a negative effect, but I wonder what negative effect. And again, we get random things happening: evade, deflect, or revive. That's pretty cool. And she's tilted to war offense. Damage goes up, flip speed up to a negative, flip defense up to a negative. On war offense, if this character has 3 or more A-Force allies, apply trauma for 2 turns. And then disrupted for 2 turns. That's super big. Damage up, trauma and disrupted for 2 turns. And then eventually, on war offense, if the character has 3 more A-Force allies, apply trauma for 2 turns and disrupted to the enemy with the highest damage. So I would say that's definitely orange worthy. And then Blood Sorcery. She gains health, so do her A-Force allies. She spawns with immunity and death proof to the lowest health ally. Focus up. Apply immunity and death proof to the highest health A-Force ally. And then 50% drain. Also orange worthy. So there is a look at the new toons in Marvel Strike Force. We have some A-Force in Spider-Woman and Nico. And then we have some mutants in Dazzler, Fantomex, Gambit. They have set up Gambit to kind of fit into multiple X-Men team, not just this Unlimited. And very briefly, we'll take a look at some of these guys over here in Marvel Future Fight and wrap up the video. Do apologize that the previous video that I had done on this last night had no sound. It's because the mic hadn't been hooked up for a while, so the recording app was like, yeah, I'm going to use the mic on a virtual headset that also isn't hooked up. Don't know why I didn't switch to the mic when I plugged it in, but I made a no voice video. Alright, so let's go over and look at team really quickly. And the first thing that we will do is we will search for Gambit. Gambit is okay in Marvel Future Fight. Pretty much right on course with the aesthetics over here. I have him at tier 2. I think he is reasonable in the game. I don't really know where he ranks anymore. I don't know if he's super good, if he's super bad, fair to midland. I think right now he's fair to midland. Skills definitely seem to include the bow staff more than Marvel Strike Force did. You have card ones and bow staff ones. Things are kinetic, which is exactly what you would expect. I don't know if anybody remembers the old Capcom X-Men game where one of his abilities, kinetic card, kinetic card, kinetic card. We have Dazzler in this game, one of the only other games that has Dazzler. Very close to her Dark Phoenix movie representation. Relatively spot on for the outfit and everything. More of kind of a disco pop star than a disco roller skater in this one. Dazzler, I think people were very excited to see her in the game, but I don't think she amounted to much. Light, flash, disco spin, there's a roller dash, intense light, and then hem of light, which is critical rate up. And the Spider-Woman is a premium character. In this, you need to have the bio subs to get her. Representation, pretty spot on. Looks really close to the Marvel Strike Force representation. I stopped spending money on the game at around the time she came out, so she's way down here for her bioelectric role. She does a lot of shock damage related things in this, and she also likes to decrease lightning resistance. There's shock damage, Arachne agility, radial spider blast, Arachne rush, bioelectricity, and spider leader. I think if I remember correctly, her ultimate ability summons like all the girl spiders. Yeah, I see, or a good chunk of the girl spiders. Again, another character that I don't really know where she is right now. I don't know how she ranks. Silk was very good for a while. I can tell you that. Silk was a very good speed character for a long time. And she's now actually got some uniforms. So, speed's for a speed character. She is a lot of fun. Spider-Woman, I really can't say. I just don't know where she ranks anymore whatsoever. Of course, Fantomex is not here, but Nico is in the game. And in all honesty, I think a very poor representation of her. She's got this outfit over here called All New, All Different. And then her original really looks similar to the Marvel Avengers Alliance version. But again, a little bit more cleaned up. More like the Addams Family here than a Hot Topic girl. And yeah, just kind of nowhere. Lots of burn damage. Although I wonder what is up with this Avian Fury. What does Nico have to do with birds? Does anybody know that? I don't. Rock and roll, energy drain. There's blood magic. When rock and roll is used, she gains some hit points. She guards against hits. And her skill damage goes up. And then insulation. Not much in the way of bleeds on her version here. But I think Nico overall wins out in Marvel Avengers Alliance for just doing what she did, which was heavy dots and reasonable damage. I think Marvel Strike Force kit is really, really close, though. It seems like it's going to be an absolute ton of fun. Dazzler, I think, is probably going to win in Strike Force. You don't have an MAA comparison there. Gambit, I truly believe he wins out of MAA if you consider that moment in history where he could just solo everything thanks to the game's mechanics. He's a fan favorite wherever he goes, so that's going to be a little bit hard to predict. And Spider-Woman, barring Kurth, might actually be at her strongest in Strike Force. I just don't know much about her in Future Fight, so I can't really say. And this is a very interesting outfit for Psylocke. This is when she was Captain Britain. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll try to get you guys any news from Beta 4 when I can. Just don't hold your breath for it, please. I don't want to be responsible for you going cyanotic and blue and falling into your toilet bowl waiting for news. So just hang in there, guys. And maybe we'll get a uniform for Moon Knight over here, because he has his default one, which is or actually his default one was modern, and then he has armored, and then he has Mr. Knight. But I think they could do definitely a series skin with the kind of wrapped up mummy look. And we're gonna go see Doctor Strange 2 tomorrow, close to midnight. The Multiverse of Madness. Really excited to see it. It's the first Marvel movie in a while that we're seeing at Alamo. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Take care.